Home Affairs Minister Brendan O'Connor says cooperation between Australia and other countries in the region is essential to combat people smuggling. And he says new anti-people smuggling legislation in both Indonesia and Malaysia are the latest signs that other nations also see it as a serious problem.
Very recently, the Malaysian government, for the first time, enacted laws criminalising people smuggling in that country, and we commended the efforts of the Malaysian government. Since then, the Indonesian Parliament passed laws criminalising people smuggling in that country for the first time, with very serious penalties for those who organise ventures. This is a very strong message to those who want to engage in this despicable trade, that all governments in the region have a strong resolve to combat this despicable trade, to bring to justice those people who seek to profit from other people's misery.
Representatives from law enforcement and security agencies have just held a border security conference in Melbourne, with people smuggling high on the agenda. Deputy Director General of the Australian Security Intelligence Organisation, David Fricker, says people smugglers are monitoring changes in Australian asylum seeker policy.
People smuggling is an organised transnational crime. The people smugglers themselves do watch developments around the world, and the ones targeting Australia certainly watch developments in Australia. They trade on their successes, they spruik their business based on the successes that they have had in the past, and before the people themselves, the asylum seekers who they're trading on, hand over their money to the people smugglers, those people are also watching developments in Australian policy, because they would be, prior to handing over a very large sum of money, they would be obviously very interested in their chances of success at the other end.
The conference in Melbourne also covered other Australian border security issues, including the risk of terrorism. Commander David Stewart from the Australian Federal Police says Al-Qaeda remains the greatest terrorist threat to Australia, despite the killing of Osama bin Laden. He says the AFP is concerned about Australian residents travelling to extremist training grounds in Yemen and Somalia for combat training before returning to Australia.
There is concern that many Western countries hold, including Australia, in regard to those individuals who travel to international conflict zones such as Yemen and Somalia to undertake military training and gain combat experience. Of concern to law enforcement are those individuals who undertake such training and combat activities abroad and then return to their homeland in order to plan and undertake terrorist actions. These fragile and failed states are fertile grounds for terrorist activities and attract foreigners who sympathise with the cause and are keen to support groups such as Yemen-based Al-Qaeda and Al-Shabaab in Somalia.
An academic from Griffith University in Queensland also gave his views on the effectiveness of Australia's counter-terrorism strategies. Professor Simon Bronnett from the Centre of Excellence in Policing and Security says the purpose of anti-terror legislation shouldn't be public perception of safety. He says many anti-terror laws are unnecessary because terror-related crimes can be tried under existing criminal laws.
Comparing our response to other countries, particularly the European countries, I think generally there's been a greater confidence in pursuing terrorists through the ordinary criminal laws. You have to remember that a terrorist commits murder, attempted murder, conspiracy to murder, often aims to attack national infrastructure. These are all very, very serious offences. So I think we often have a fairly large canvas of crimes that we can use anyway.
Another speaker was from an organisation representing Pacific nations, the Oceania Customs Organisation. Clementai Parla, a law enforcement and security advisor with the organisation, says combating crimes such as people and drug trafficking needs to be a regional initiative. And Mr Taipala says Australia should be assisting smaller island nations to update their customs legislation. He says criminals are taking advantage of the outdated customs laws in these countries to gain access to Australia and New Zealand.
A lot of work is being done, especially between the Australian customs and the PNG customs, especially in patrolling the borders and developing the capacity of the customs administration in PNG. And we believe that I think some of the small island countries are being left out in such initiatives, and we believe that more should be done to try and also assist those small island countries. they can use these borders in order to get into, because of the lack of capacity there. They can use to enter into Australia or New Zealand.